often, I've told the story a lot, the background color of the cards on Bad Medicine, the shape of the money in the networks, those were direct suggestions from Kickstarter backers. And
Sweet.
Both games are stronger because of it, So I love getting feedback from Kickstarter backers. I love when Kickstarter backers give me a suggestion. It's like, that is a brilliant suggestion. I love that idea. Let's go with it. But it's at some point, I also recognize I'd really like to get off Kickstarter, and it would be nice to say, okay, I'm releasing this game, and just take away the unknown of will the game fund,
Right.
I mean, right now, I don't know if Bad Medicine's Second Opinion will fund. I think it will. I hope it will, but I don't know. There's a chance it won't, And if it doesn't, I mean, there are ways I could do the reprint, but they're a lot harder. And they involve me not getting as much money for them and sacrificing a lot of control. And I don't want to do either of those things. So Kickstarter right now is vital to me, absolutely vital. And one of the reasons I have my own company is because of Kickstarter. If it weren't for Kickstarter, I would not be doing this.
And now the moment you've all been waiting for. Cardboard Insanity's Game of the Week. As much as I like getting new games, I also really have a fondness for getting older games. I've lately been trying to trade for out-of-print stuff. Things that I've played in the past, and things that you can't get anymore. And it's... I don't like to necessarily talk about those games on this show just because people can't get them, so they're not readily available.
Right, and that's kind of sad because then you're excited about a game and then it's like, oh, but it's out of print.
Right. So the good news is this week we're going to give you guys a title that was out of print for a long time, and I'm not even sure was ever available in America. This was an old Kosmos 2-player game. Originally called Rosenkönig, and now renamed for the American audience who cannot pronounce an umlaut as The Rose King.
The Rose King. And
this is very much an abstract game. It's 2 players only. The box purports about 30 minutes. I'd say it's a little quicker than that. But
it depends.
2-player game with a very interesting twist. A 9x9 board is placed between the players, and one side of the board actually has a crown, which is going to face the red player. That's the player that's going to go first. So you have a red player and a white player. And essentially, in the most abstract of fashions, you're playing as the houses of Lancaster and York from the War of the Roses and whatever year England this was. Was it 1400s?
1400 some.
1490 Oses. That's when the English fought the War of the Roses.
Oh, is that a thing, really? Or you just made that up?
No, it's a real rhyme. It's like 1493, Columbus ran amok from the...
I'm still convinced that you make this up because
you
make up rhymes and songs
things
all the time.
Well, that's,
So War of the Roses.
War of the Roses. I digress. You have a 9x9 board. One player is the red, and the crown on the top of the board is going to face that player. Each player is going to get 4 strength cards. They refer to them as in the rule book. A hero card. And then there's going to be a deck of 24 cards. These cards have a symbol of basically like a compass rose showing a sword pointing in one of 8 directions. The crown on the top of the board is going to symbolize the way that cards need to be dealt out. So out of these 24 cards, there's 3 cards for each of the 8 directions, and each of those cards goes 1, 2, or 3 spaces. The cards get shuffled up. Each player gets dealt 5. These go face up on the table. So this is a perfect information game, too, because you never don't know what your opponent has. Then, in the center of the 9x9 board, there's a crown piece that gets put in the central square. The red player goes first, and your turn is really simple. You play a card, or you draw a card. If you have 5 cards in your hand, you have to play a card. If you can't, then it's the opponent's turn until you can. If neither player can play a card, game's over. Very simply, to play a card, you put it in the discard pile, and you move the crown a number of spaces, whatever's shown on the card, 1, 2, or 3, in the direction shown on the card. And again, this is an absolute direction because the crown basically is the hard north in the game. So both players' cards are oriented the same exact way, so you will know exactly how I can move the crown, and I will know how you can move the crown.
Right.
You have to move to an empty space, and when you do, you will place one of the cardboard tokens. They're double-sided, so you'll place one of those on the board with your house's color face up. If you can't move to an empty space, or if you don't want to, you can use one of your hero cards to allow you to flip the token that's on the board in that space to your color. So you can never move to a space that has your own piece, but I can essentially take over my opponent's piece.
Which can be very interesting.
Yes. The idea of this game is that you're trying to make areas where you have a large number of tokens together.
So it's an area majority.
In a sort of way.
Okay.
What'll happen is at the end of the game, each grouping that you have is worth a number of points. So it's the number of tokens you have in that group squared.
Okay.
So if you have 9 tokens in the group, 9 squared is 9 times 9 is 81. There's a very handy scoring reference on the back, which I know they added from the edition, because we also have the old German edition.
Yes, we do.
And I'm not talking about the Horsey Avenger.
Hello.
Thank you. But they also have the scoring on the back there. So if you need to look, instead of having to do the math, you can just say, okay, I have 15 tokens in there. That's worth 225 points.
And I also found a really handy-dandy helper on BGG.
Yep.
I don't remember the gentleman's name that posted it out there, but if you search for it on BGG, it's a really great score sheet.
Yep.
That helps you with because it's easy enough to do 8x8 and 9x9,
Sure.
but when it comes to 17x17, I'm
done.
lost.
I'm done at 12x12. See, I knew 13x13, 169. Yeah. After that, I got nothing.
So
but you're right.
That's actually very helpful, and I printed it out for us because we do play it quite a bit.
Yes. So essentially, like I said, you're going to play until either all the tokens are on the board, or if all players have a handful of 5 cards and no one can make a legal move, which can happen because if you run out of hero cards, you won't be able to move to an opponent's space, or you get pinned in the corner towards the end of the game and you just don't draw the cards. That is the more likely outcome in my experience with this game.
Yes.
But about 30 minutes, and then you score up each of your groups, total up the points, most points win. Let's see, is there a tiebreaker? Is there a tiebreaker? In case of a tie, the player with the largest single territory is the winner.
Okay.
If this is also a tie, the player with the greatest number of roses on the board is the winner, which is your symbol face up. So they've got a couple layers of tiebreaker, which I've never seen happen just because the way the math works in this game, it doesn't tend to go that way. But now that we've told you how to play, we'll talk a little bit about things we like about the game. So why don't you go first, Horsey Avenger?
Well, when we first played this, we actually played an online version of it, and I didn't know the rules, and I was
on Yucata.de.
Yes, I was completely lost. So
she was trying to play by just doing stuff to figure out the rules. And I'm sitting there, I would watch a move she did and go, like, what in God's name is she doing? Like, what? Does she even know how to play this? So in hindsight, the answer was no.
No.
But
so once I actually sat down with you and we had an actual board between us, I love the strategy that you can develop, and the hero cards are really important because
very important.
Not just do you want to use them as a last move, like, oh my goodness, I don't have a legal move, I have to use a hero card. You may want to use the hero card to start breaking up your opponent's territory.
Right. It's one of those things where as you're trying to create those big groups, you'll inevitably get spots where you have, let's call it a weak spot, where if you just have one token between a bunch of others, you can use your hero card to take out that token. And now suddenly, instead of having one huge group, you have 2 smaller groups, which is worth significantly less points.
Exactly. And another thing that that you have to pay attention to, it's the kind of game you need to pay attention to your opponent's cards and what possible moves they have available. This is not the kind of game where you just do your thing and your opponent does their thing. No. You need to strategically consider your possibility and your opponent's possibility, because I know when we play, there's been a couple times where I purposely went off the rails because I could see what your cards availability was, and I didn't want you to execute the moves you had available.
Right.
So I took the game into a different direction.
Yeah.
And kind of messed with your plans.
That's one of the interesting things, because
I love that part.
Instead of just using a hero card to maybe specifically break up my area, you can use a card that will let you move the crown way far away, especially because you can see what I have. You can move way out to the boondocks and then go like, okay, I'm just not going to let you do anything else down there until you get a card. I'm going to keep, like, if we're building in the bottom left corner, you go, fine, I'm going to move this as far as I can to the top right corner, and we're going to do stuff up there because it's the only way you can get away. But the other side of that is, if you're careful, you can start to work your way back into that and then connect things you have done earlier.
Yes.
And so there's a wonderful element of managing your hand, of every card is simultaneously good and bad, because all of them are going to let you do a move that's potentially viable, but sometimes they're super viable and then sometimes they're super terrible. So it really depends what the board state is, and the board state changes, but not violently. It's not one of those games where there's a huge downtime because the board has changed tremendously from when it was your turn to my turn.
Right.
There's some games like, I just think off the top of my head, Grand Austria Hotel, where a ton of things will happen on your turn, and then I have to process it. 5 Tribes is the king of that.
Yes.
By the time you've done anything and it gets to my turn, I have to reevaluate the whole board. This game isn't that, because the smaller size of it reins it in, which is nice.
Yeah, and you can kind of plan ahead a little bit. And,
yes.
And that's what I know when I'm playing it, that's what I'm doing, is I'm taking a look at, here are the things that I can do, here's what he can do, and I'm actually going 2-3 moves ahead of what the possibilities are.
Yep.
So I'm prepared when you make your moves. I know what your possible moves were, and I've already kind of thought about what my counter move is to your move. And I love the interaction that it forces between the two players.
Agreed.
We've played 2-player games where you don't have a lot of interaction, and that can be good sometimes, but I really enjoy having an interactive play with my gaming partner.
Agreed.
And this is definitely a game that makes you interact. And there's a little bit of that, take that, but not too much.
There is. I would not disagree with that. I don't think it's the nasty kind. It's not like a spiteful, like, I'm ruining your thing because I can. I'm ruining your thing because I have to.
Right.
And
it
also,
is more thoughtful, and it is limited. You have 4 hero cards that can intervene.
That's the thing, right.
So you're either, most of the time, you're going to intervene with the hero cards and kind of put a damper on what your opponent was planning. Sometimes you're able to do that just with your directional cards that you have available by taking a look at what's available. Maybe you can't do the optimal move for yourself, but you can move the gameplay into a different corner and therefore kind of ruin the plans of your opponent, because now they have to completely rethink.
Right. Or buy yourself some time. And I think that's one of the other cool things too, is since you can see each other's cards, I can see, looking at your cards, I know you don't really want to do any of those things. So what I'm going to do is draw a card and hope to put myself in a better situation. Like if you do one of those, I'll still feel like I'm in a better spot. So since you can see each other's cards, it's huge. Yes. I think this is a game that's very interesting to me because it's, rules-wise, can't be any simpler. But the amount of replay and depth in this game is unbelievable.
I agree.
It's unbelievable. This was designed by Dirk Henn, who's best known for Alhambra, which you haven't played.
I haven't, but we do have the big box.
We do have the big box, and off the top of my head, I can't think of anything else he's designed. I'm sure he's designed more than that, but this game to me is a better game than Alhambra. Alhambra's real. It's a great game, and I like it a lot. But this thing is perfect. This is lean and it's efficient. And okay, there's no theme. It's an abstract. It's totally an abstract with the thinnest veil of theme. You're one step away from playing Othello with black and white pieces.
That's true.
Honestly,
that's true.
But it's amazing. Like, this is such an amazing. Like, I want to play this game with my dad because he loves chess, and I can't understand, if you would like chess, how you couldn't like a game like this.
That's very true. I think your dad would adore this game.
Yeah, and you know, my mom, who's likes rules that are shorter. That's why she prefers Knizia games, because the rule set's small on them. This is a perfect game for her. But it's also a perfect game for us. Folks that are hardcore gamers and play a lot, because there's just so much meat on that if you really want to dig into it. And you don't have to dig far.